All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network with me, your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Monday edition of the broadcast, June 16th into Tuesday, June 17th, 2014. Thank you for being with us tonight for another edition of the show. We're going to be getting into a variety of very interesting news items for you here tonight on the show, and I'm sure I'll get off and on to some tangents of my own as well as I always do. So, excuse me. I hate when that happens. Take a drink of water or something right before you start talking. End up burping. But we are here with you tonight, so we thank you so much for being with us. And we do have, as I said, some very interesting stuff to talk about here tonight on the show. We were going to have a show Friday night. We didn't end up having one because there just wasn't a lot of material to get into or cover, and I didn't really feel like I had anything to say other than that I hadn't said all week. So that's why we didn't have a show that night. We weren't having any and haven't had any more hack attacks since last week. So hopefully they'll give us a rest for a minute. You know, because it's very frustrating, but it does that. I mean, it always happens like that, especially when I've been gone for a bit. It's like I've been gone for a bit, you know, and done as many shows, and I come back and I'm like, oh well, we got to go fuck with him again. It's the way she goes, I guess. Anyway, my website where this broadcast originates from is www. Yes. I used to say it four times or something, I think. Said it too many times. You just start, you spit this stuff out repeatedly, day in and day out, sometimes you fuck up. But theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. That's my website. So all things can be found there on the website, including, as you probably know if you're listening right now, the 128K audio stream, which the show broadcasts live over the internet airwaves as it does every night here. And we play replay shows where we try to keep the stream up as much as we possibly can. When we don't have support and stuff like that, sometimes we're not able to. So that's why it's important for you to support our work, which is where I was going next. We have our new Indiegogo fundraiser going on right now up there. This is our, hopefully, if we get every last red cent we need in this fundraiser, hopefully this could be our last one. But we have one going up there. It's up at my website, theglobalreality.com. It's a little link on the right-hand side of the page, Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 3. Click on that, and there's different packages in there for different levels of sponsorship for the film. So if you'd like to get your name in the film and have it listed as a contributor or a co-producer or whatever it may be, then go and find yourself one of the appropriate prize packages there and make a contribution. And, you'll not only get your name in the film, but you'll also officially be a part of the history-making stuff that we have a chance to be able to cover in this film, along with the amazing new look of everything with the cameras and everything. But we really have a chance here to get some stuff on film no one's ever captured, no one's ever seen. But we have to have a budget to do that. If we don't have a budget to do that, we can't do it. That's just all there is to it. I don't like it as much as you do, believe me. I wish I could just do all this stuff for free, and I wish it didn't cost thousands of dollars to make these films, but unfortunately it does. And this one is definitely by far my biggest budgeted film to date. And we started out with a large budget for this film, and as we are, even when you have a large budget, you're generally always going to go over it, and we indeed have gone over that budget for this film. But at the same time, we also had, as I've talked about, unforeseen snags that happen when you go out to these when you go on these treks, sometimes, I mean, even when you have everything planned out and everything, and I do, my crew really applauds me every time we go out on one. They're just blown away every time. I get more compliments from them on my planning and my prepping. They're completely blown away by it. And it just doesn't seem like much to me, but they're just always blown away by, I have everything mapped out to the cent. I know how much it's going to cost exactly. And, but there's unforeseen things that happen. I mean, we've driven out sites, driven hours, spent all day in the car to get out to a site, and then, they'll be open, but hey, guess what? There's a fucking dust storm that day, so you can't get out to this site you drove 6 hours to get to see. Tough shit that's your only day you have to get it on film. That's the problem. It's not like we don't have time when we're on these things to just, because we're cramming, we usually cram at least 4 or 5 states in the span of 5-6 days most. And, people have lives. People have kids, and jobs and everything else, and people go to school, and it's tough to be out on the road for any longer than, a week at a time. That's about the max we've done. And it's difficult, and you can't do it all the time. So that's why we try to maximize every minute, every dollar, everything we have, every hour, every minute. We don't waste any time when we're out there on the road. We get and go from next site to this site. I go sometimes to these places, and have people, listeners and whatnot, want to meet up, and I just don't flat have time because I'm not even in town for very long. We'll roll in town late at night, roll out super early, drive out to a site, try to get out there, and hopefully get it on tape. And we have far more successes than we have failures. But again, there's those factors that are out of your control sometimes, and so that's that's one of the things that causes us to go over budget. And then also stuff this time, what's really causing this time is the fact that we were already in production on this film and had everything mapped that we were going to cover for it. And then, as I've talked about, we had these 3 really unique, unseen curveballs thrown our way. Stuff that's never been touched, never been dug up by anybody. We have evidence of actual giant evidence that we have an opportunity to capture. Another rock wall, rock wall right near Llano, where I believe the rock wall materials were crafted at. And lo and behold, they have geopolymer mortar between. This is one of our listeners. This is somebody who heard me on the radio and says, sends me an email and says, I've got this on my land. Same thing with the giant footprint. Guy in South Dakota as well. I mean, it's amazing, folks. I mean, everything that I wanted to achieve in making these films, which is, hey, there's got to be some other people out there that know about some stuff we haven't found yet, and it's happening. And all I'm waiting on is the budget to be able to go out and travel the long distances it takes. I mean, you got to think about, going down there to Llano or something. That's not that bad. That's a 4-hour drive or something. That's really not that bad. But where's the other one? Well, Alabama. Okay, well that's a day drive there. But we already had there's a lot of other sites that we haven't gone to yet in surrounding states. So it's more economic for us to do a trip where we don't just go to Alabama, but where we go to Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, whatever, Georgia, and hit all the sites, because there's tons in there we haven't even gotten to yet that we can get on tape and film for the film. So see, it's always better for us to try and do as much as we can in a short amount of time instead of just trying to spend resources on going, okay, we're going to do one trip where we go to this site. And you could do that, but if I had unlimited time and unlimited resources, I would do that. But I got to tell you, folks, with everything that's going on here, and we'll talk more about this in a bit, as I've been talking about recently, and as I've been talking about for many years, what's starting to escalate in this country is something where time is beginning to run out. They have figured out, just like we have figured out, what is buried under America, and they want to do here just as they've been doing in the East and in Iraq. And we'll talk more about that here tonight with an article and stuff here in just a bit. But that's that right there is one of the main reasons why I don't try to just take it easy or take more time with the films. I mean, if I had unlimited time and unlimited funds, I would dedicate one trip to just going to one site and spend 2 or 3 days there, because that's really what you got to do, honestly. But I really just don't. I don't have the ability to do that at this point, and I really don't think I have the time to do that at this point, because this information needs to get out there to people in a big way, and the dots need to be connected for them so they can see the big picture of this and realize what's going on not only in this country but throughout the world, what the elite are really after, what they're really searching for, and what they're really covering up, and also how they're selling us on a completely different pretext in order to get the ends they desire, to keep these actions in place, to keep control over whatever lies underground from the ancient past that they seem to be after. That's why they're whipping this country up in a frenzy right now, doing everything they can to collapse it and get us in absolute chaos. They're killing the economy. They're flooding the country by design with illegals to create unrest, to goad us into a reaction that allows them to lock us and clamp us down. And, as I've talked about for many years, the phony conspiracy patriot movement is going right along. They have no idea that they're actively enabling these continued cover-ups and the continued lies and the continued disinformation over the real reason why we are fighting wars, committing genocide, and wanting to tear down countries like the United States. I mean, hell, man, it's all around us. I might as well just jump into it. I'm already fucking amped up and talking about it now, right? Pentagon stunning protesters to prep for mass civil breakdown. From the Washington Times, the Department of Defense has disbursed some funds to universities so that scientists might study the dynamic of civil unrest and how the U.S. military might best respond. Listen to this. It's called, listen to this name, the Minerva Research Initiative. And it's a program that was kicked off in 2008 to improve the Department of Defense's basic understanding of the social, cultural, behavioral, and political forces that shape regions of the world of strategic importance to the U.S. Now, understand right there the most important thing in that statement that we just read. Did you hear it? Two things. Two very important things. Number one, obviously the name. And number two, this has been going on since 2008. Well, what's been going on since 2008? The multi-million-dollar research program seeks to uncover, quote, warfighter relevant insights, unquote, to help senior ranking officials in the defense policy community come up with combatant commands that work in civil unrest situations. They are actively studying making American citizens, how to designate when an American citizen is, quote unquote, an enemy combatant. Project Minerva. The Minerva Research Initiative. Kicked off in 2008. Now, that's interesting because I remember 2008. I'd been on air about a year. Me and some guys that I was started on a network with called TruthNet Radio. started a network when that one went tits up. And I can really remember that year as being a banner year for really trolls and infiltrators. And I mean, it was really seemed like that was the year that, before that, I mean, I'd been around even before I was on radio and stuff and really not seen the level that we started to see around that year. Another aspect of the project partners the University of Washington with the U.S. Army Research Office to uncover the conditions under which political movements aimed at large-scale political and economic change originate, as well as their characteristics and consequences through study of 58 different countries. Those individuals targeted for questioning include political activists and members of non-governmental organizations, something that The Guardian pointed to as a potential for concern. In a question to a key project researcher that went largely unaddressed, The Guardian raised some troubling issues. Does the U.S. Department of Defense see protest movements and social activism in different parts of the world as a threat to U.S. national security? If so, why? Does the U.S. Department of Defense consider political movements aiming for large-scale political and economic change as a national security matter? If so, why? Activism, protests, political movements, and, of course, NGOs are a vital element of healthy civil society democracy. Why is it that the DoD is funding research to investigate such issues? In response, Aaron Fitzgerald, a key program manager at an official with the U.S. Naval Postgraduate School, said simply and in part that by better understanding these conflicts and their causes beforehand, the Department of Defense can better prepare for the dynamic future security environment. So in so many words, they admit right there that by studying this stuff before they happen, we'll be ready for it when they actually do, meaning they are planning for this to happen. I mean, this absolutely is an admission. We know anytime they do any sort of studies or drills or anything like this, it's always because they're planning for the real thing, or they're planning on piggybacking the real thing on the back of whatever the study or a drill, or whatever they end up calling it that week. They are going forward with this. They have been working on this for quite some time. This is what I have been working to prevent. You know, that's one of the things that really frustrates me the most about all the work that I've done through the years, exposing the phony truthers and the whatever you want to call them, militia, extremists, whatever, yada, 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 neo-Nazis, white supremacists. I mean, fuck them, I've exposed them all. But one of the things I feel that a lot of people have never really gotten, has frustrated me from the beginning, is that people always have taken my sincere and honest concern for the well-being of not only myself and my friends and family, but all of you out there, and what I feel like is my duty to warn you about. I have been trying to warn you of something, and yet it's been taken as, for the most part, not by everyone, but by a lot of people. All the years I've been exposing this, it's been taken as just hate. Oh, you're just hating. You're just hating on Alex Jones, or you're hating on this person, blah, 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 blah. And they'll sort of brush it off as anything except what it truly is. And I have been very, very frustrated and upset about this for many years. And the time for that belief to end is now. Because, my friends, I have been up here since I first found out about this stuff and the real deeper operation going on in 2007. And as I've talked about before, I had that moment where I could have chosen just to keep my mouth shut about it. But again, it comes down to that thing you have to ask yourself, what do you want? Because going along to get along and not rocking the boat is what got us in this situation in the first place. So that didn't seem like an option to me. And trust me, you got to be careful when you go looking for the truth. If you're new to this stuff, really honestly, if you're new to this stuff and you're listening to this show right now, we really should go listen to something else for a while and go read stuff, do your own research, come back and listen to the show again. Because I don't come from the standpoint that you've, you're a noob. I assume you're up to a certain level of understanding of this stuff. And if you're not, that's really not my problem. But, what has just been written off as just, clowning Alex Jones or, just shit talking, or it's never been about that for me. And if that's what you think that all my work and exposing all this stuff, all those years have been about, then you didn't get it. You didn't get me, and I'm sorry. I have been talking about this stuff because I've been trying to warn you, because I've read the writings of these clowns, man. I mean, I stuck my head deep in this stuff for years, y'all. I mean, those guys like Larry Pratt and, what was the other guy's name? Some of those guys I talk about in the See Your Right films. I mean, those guys were actively talking about, in the late 80s, creating Contra-style militias within the United States. It would be basically, vigilante groups. They would organize to rise up against the government. And we've talked about, again, the escalation in Iraq. This escalation is mirroring that here. And just like we're being, told this lie of, oh, well, we have to go to Iraq because it's for the oil, or, Al-Qaeda and terrorism, and then people say, no, it's not terrorism, not this, it's just for the oil, whatever. And those, all those things are true, of course. But then people act like that's the only reason. It's the only reason you hear talked about in the mainstream of things for the most part. But they never do anything, folks, for one or two reasons. And we've seen the evidence of what has been done, how they, look how many pictures there are of our troops, American troops posing next to ancient sites you and I will never get access to, nor will anybody else probably ever again, in the Middle East. Ancient Sumerian, Babylonian temples. And I've shown some in Volume 1 of the Lost Secrets. These guys, posing in uniform and with their guns and shit in front of, smiling, big smiles on their face. And just like the world got sold, oh, well, that's where the terrorists are, and that's where Al-Qaeda, and then in 9/11, as an excuse to go over there and wipe out and commit genocide on all the people, so too will we, and not only we as Americans, but the world be sold on this phony idea that we have a new civil war in the United States of America. We have this big divided country, armed conflict, complete police state lockdown, and the whole everything you've heard everybody scream about for years. And it's because of illegal immigrants got let in by Obama. And that's what caused this to happen. And that's what they'll write in the history books, and that'll become the common belief. But it doesn't make it the truth. But you see my point. They're trying to do that, to build that narrative again. The real truth is we have now, with the advent of the internet and all these people out there researching, the combined efforts have now allowed us to crack the real reason why these wars and escalations happen in places where they're after ancient artifacts, antiquities, ancient sites, and the rest of it. You know, go and read what Gary Vay talks about in his experiences. You know, being in Yemen prior to 9/11, working on deciphering this language at the Palace of Sheba, where the Ark of the Covenant was supposedly located. And working on that there, and then leaving, and 9/11 happening while he's there. And then when he gets ready to go through customs and get on the plane to come home, they tell him, "Oh, sorry, you're wanted for questioning by the Department of Homeland Security because you have been in an Al-Qaeda base camp for the last year." And he says, "No, I haven't. I've been in an archaeological dig in Yemen for the past year." And they said, "Sir, you don't understand. The archaeological site, supposedly where you've been, has now been deemed an Al-Qaeda headquarters." 9/11 happens, folks. They're on the brink of a major discovery, and then they just declare that this archaeological site is a Al-Qaeda base camp. You see this? You see where this is going? What was one of the first things Obama did when he came in the first term? Airstrikes, Yemen, boom. Right as more discoveries were starting to come out about that. I predicted that on my show. I said, you watch, they're going to go after Yemen next. I predicted it because I found out about Gary Vay's stuff, and I said, well, that's where they're going next. And sure enough, it was really in a matter of weeks after first talking about that on this show that those airstrikes started happening. And, I just said, look, there it is again. Wake up and figure out what this is all about, folks. We have enough stuff buried under the United States of America that if we bring out any of this evidence to the world, it's going to unravel thousands and thousands of years of their narrative of lies. I mean, when I revealed in Lost Secrets 2, finding out that you have the grandson of T.U. Wade, who discovered the rock wall, being the district attorney of Dallas, the longest sitting district attorney in United States history. He was the guy that would have prosecuted Oswald had Oswald not been eliminated. He was the same Wade in the Roe versus Wade abortion case. And then he also from Rockwall. And then Congressman Ralph Hall, longest sitting congressman until recently. He was dethroned finally. But both those holding those records, and then, Ralph Hall's a Council for National Policy member, from Rockwall. Then we have Alex Jones. He was originally from Rockwall. You see this? This is what I'm trying to show you. There is no division. This is why at the end of the Secret Right Volume 2, in the Secret Right Volume 2, with mention of Ralph Hall and mention of the Rockwall. And then, boom, segue into this project here. Because people need to understand that whether or not you like my work in the Lost Secrets of Ancient America and all this stuff, whether you not like that or whether you don't, or whether you like the Secret Right stuff or whether you don't, folks, there's no separation between this stuff. This has basically been one long continuous project because it's all relevant to each other, because the grand thing that we're looking at, seeing here, cover up by this world power structure we've all been looking into all these years. The real reason why all this stuff is going on is being covered up even by the majority of the people in the quote-unquote conspiracy research community, or whatever you want to call it. And everybody's buying into this other narrative of this is the reason why there's going to be civil war and civil unrest. Oh, it's because of Obama and the illegals, and Obama's a communist, and this, that, and the other. All side dressing, all window shopping, all stuff there to distract you and get you to believe that's what's going on, so you believe and buy into their phony narrative again. It's all about getting you to buy their version of the story over any other version at all times. That's what it's about. You know, here's another clue. Where'd it go? Give me a second. Here we go. Chinese investors buying up U.S. golf courses. Now, why would Chinese investors be buying up U.S. golf courses? Oh, well, you know, country clubs. Oh, yeah, you get, you know, cost so much to be a member. Oh, you know, blah, blah, blah. Right. Okay, I get it. What's the answer to 99 out of 100 questions? Money, right? I get it. But see, that explanation, you know, that we always give, which is, you know, always usually the correct one. And why did this happen? Well, probably at the end of the day, it was probably something about money. And of course, it probably always is. But because that's such an easy thing and such a believable thing, it's also something they love to use to get away with things that you don't catch and that people aren't paying attention to. You know, because if you commit a crime or you commit some act, or you do something for which the motive is money, and it's very obvious that motive is money, like this, the Chinese investors buying up U.S. golf courses. Obviously, the first obvious explanation or reason for that is going to be, in most people's minds, money. They're doing it because they want to make money. But my argument is that while that probably is the case in all these cases, what is there that you can also do and get away with under the guise of that to make it appear to the general public, oh, you know, Chinese investors just buying up U.S. golf courses because they want to invest it and make tons of money because, you know, it's expensive to be a member of a country club, blah, 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 blah. And then it's money, 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 and that's the explanation. That's all you see, and you never think anything else about it. That's right, because you have the explanation. Why ever think anything else about it? But my red flag went off immediately when I realized, and you know, from my research, just how many golf courses, specifically in the United States of America, have been built right on top of ancient mound sites. What the best example of that is in Ohio, right near where the Newark earthworks are, not far from the. It's in the same area where the what they call the alligator mound is. It's in the same neighborhood. You got the Newark earthworks, you've got the Great Circle, and you've got the alligator mound. And really, about 13 miles away, you've got the Nephilim Graveyard of the Kings. So all right there in this one little area, you've got all these ancient sites. But right in the middle of it, where once was this earthwork that looked like the Starship Enterprise, there is now a country club there. It's the only way you can get access, and I wasn't able to get access to get on the course to get footage of this thing. But it's literally called Mound Builders Country Club. I mean, that's what it's called. And there are some here in Dallas, in Irving, actually, which is a suburb of Dallas, where the Dallas Cowboys Stadium used to be before they moved it to Arlington, Texas, which is another suburb here in the area. But in Irving, there's a part. Irving is right about where the 33rd degree parallel starts in this area. And so right in the area where that starts is right where is Irving, Valley Ranch. It's really right where the old Cowboy Stadium used to be, which makes it interesting. They moved it away from that. You know, it's like, what's going to happen on the 33rd degree parallel here where they didn't want the stadium there? But in that area, there's an area there where there's a golf course at, and there's, I think it's where the Cowboys train at. Valley Ranch is where it is. That's where their local training thing is. And be damned if there isn't a golf course there with mounds all in. I mean, there's, you know, they're all over the country. I've been driving, just seeing golf courses with mounds. What I could clearly see were mounds, and look at, find out the name of the golf course, go look it up, and sure enough, find out, they openly discuss it and tell people that's the case. Because if you look at what China's done, China has gone out of their way. Because this is an interesting tidbit, and I know I've talked about this before, but some people may have not heard this, so I have to repeat it. The United States is the only country, very interesting thing, we're the only country where mounds are called mounds. Everywhere else in every part of the world, they're called pyramids. That's why the Bosnian pyramids are referred to as Bosnian pyramids, but they're really, for all intents and purposes, mounds. So it's that mound thing is kind of a misnomer, and I've come to learn why, really. It's really a thing to switch off the brain so that you don't associate it with advanced building skill or advanced technology or anything like that. Mound just brings about the image in your mind, a mound of dirt. It doesn't really bring to mind very intricately designed structures, as all these mound sites that I've traveled to are. They're not just mounds of dirt. On the outside, they may look like that, but if you could cut back a layer and look at the inside, they're always built with different types of soil that are brought in from, in many cases, hundreds and hundreds of miles away. And this technique is what enables these structures to maintain their shape, form, height, and all this for many, many years to come. And it's far more advanced than even the Native Americans ever laid claim to. And throughout the world, that's what we see in these ancient sites. We see the continuation of this structural engineering that goes well beyond what we're told ancient people had. So again, that's one of the main reasons why there's so many cover-ups and whatnot. But in China, they've been doing the same thing there. They have mounds, pyramids, what they call pyramids, Chinese pyramids. You can look them up. There's been very little footage of the years caught of these things. They've been planting forests on them for years. They're giant flat-top mounds, and they're earthen mounds and stuff and structures. But China's been doing everything they can. They don't have any sanctioned archaeological digs. China does probably more than anybody other than the United States and the Smithsonian to keep ancient sites covered up. Now, the real question is why would the Chinese want to keep this stuff covered up? Why would they have a vested interest in keeping up, these mounds or whatever have your pyramids? Let's just call them mounds in their own country. Why would they have a vested interest in keeping mounds in their own country and China covered up? And then coming to America and buying up golf courses that have mound sites on them and doing whatever they want to those. They could come in and redo the greens and tear these mounds down and excavate them and create new greens and just say, oh, that's just our green refurbishing plan that we're doing here. If you've seen The Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1 specifically, especially towards the end part of that film, when I get into the migration patterns of where these different people went throughout the world, that all originally originated from this one area. And then you look at things like the red hair, Caucasian, Aryan-type mummies that have been found in China. And you start to understand that the people who were revered in the ancient China, were shaman, and they were white-skinned shaman. You had red-haired mummies, white-skinned Aryans found in China. They were, adorned with all these shamanic things and buried with pounds and pounds of marijuana even. Think about it. There was a lady who found a statue of a Chinese deity that was worshipped in 3,000 years ago in China in a well in Oklahoma. You see, there's a very distinct connection between the people that were here in the United States in the ancient past and the people that were in China in the ancient past. And there's evidence lying underground to support that. Now, if that evidence comes out to the public, all of China's nationalistic bullshit that they've built their enslavement society upon for all these years comes crumbling down in its own footprint like Building 7, doesn't it? So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the explanation as to why Chinese investors buying up U.S. golf courses should be of concern. But again, great case, great example of something there where on the surface of it, almost everyone would look at that and go, well, yeah, money. That's it. Again, not always the explanation for everything. That's a real good research tip for you, from me right there. Something you have to be aware of. Always look for that other thing. And that's where you'll end up finding a whole lot of truth, probably more than you wanted to begin with. But they don't want this connection to show the connection between, people who were in the ancient Asiatic areas and people who were here in the ancient past. And again, you can't have division and divide and conquer and all this stuff when everybody realizes, everything, no matter what country you come from or language you speak or religion or whatever it may be you are, it all originates from the same exact source. All of it. And this division that we have been tricked into buying into is what causes the very enslavement that we oppose. Let's see what else we have here tonight. More hostile alien fear-mongering as we have documented many times here. We see that coming on more and more. Again, something von Braun, Wernher von Braun, talked about extensively in the final years of his life. This idea that we would be sold on this lie of hostile aliens for the weaponization of space. There's been a lot of movies out where they've really been trying to hammer home stuff that's coming. People call it predictive programming. I really don't think that's a good term for what this is. We should come up with something better. I actually think it's more like, it's just in-your-face foreshadowing. It's reality foreshadowing more than anything. They're foreshadowing the reality of what's coming around the corner under the guise of fiction. I mean, look at the new Captain America, the Winter Soldier. Watch that film. That actually was a pretty damn good film, actually. I mean, I was... for a comic book movie, it was actually not bad. It was way better than that new X-Men they came out with. That movie sucked. It was a 2.5-hour exercise in trying to fix all the continuity errors with the other three. It was a big disappointment. But that film gets into tons of the space-based weapon stuff. It shows really to a T what they want to do, what the plan is, and with the reason, as von Braun said, to sell us on the idea of first the threat being communism, then third world crazy terrorists, then asteroids, then non-hostile aliens who they would tell us were hostile so that we would weaponize space. And they kind of show, why they would want the weaponization of space in the Captain America movie. I mean, they want to just go through and just, wipe out whole cities at any given time, and keep everybody living under the fear of that. Worse than, the Red Scare and nuclear weapons ever were. This thing whereby computers, they can basically, they want to eliminate you at any time sitting in your room where, they just from space, shoot a beam down at such and such address because they show the control grid and they kind of show the tracking and tracing stuff of the modern day. It's all in those films. And another one I watched recently was like that was Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit. which had the guy who played the new Kirk in the Star Trek films, the reboots, the Danny Abrams reboots, and also had Kevin Costner in it. And in that movie, again, they show, the collapse of the financial system, and then, Russia and China dumping the dollar and instituting new currencies and riding on the back of a terrorist attack so that America doesn't recover financially. I mean, they're hinting at this and showing this, and people are just taking it as fiction or whatever, not even really realizing that they're telling us basically in our face that this is what's coming. And they're doing this more and more and more. And you could argue they've been doing it for a while, but I would argue they haven't been doing it on this level with such what's the word? Reciprocity. I mean, they're just really, really, really hammering this point home on all kinds of fronts repeatedly. And that's a great indicator. I mean, that's one of the things they love to do, because the psychology of these sick and twisted bastards that run the planet, I've studied for quite some time. And it really is such a strange, weird, fucked up psychology. Because it's like they lie, but then they do things to make it appear that they didn't lie. Or then they get us to do things where we all end up, getting killed, but they do it so that in the end, well, they can't really be blamed for it. Get plausible deniability, if you want to call it that, fine, you could call it that, but I think it's more than plausible deniability as well, because it's more than just having a believable alibi, which is really what plausible deniability is. It's more than having just a believable alibi for these people. They have this weird thing where it has to happen according to some, fucked up code that they have. It's really hard to explain, but it's something I've studied and seen as a reality for many years looking at this stuff. But the hostile alien thing is a constantly repeated meme. Von Braun talked about the reason being is that, these non-hostile aliens want to come and help us basically fix what the fuck we're doing to this planet before we murder all of us and ourselves and everything else. And the fucking people in charge want that because they're planning on getting the fuck out of here anyway. They've got bug out plans, the stuff we don't even know about, underground bases, off-Earth systems. I mean, they've got stuff beyond the dreams of the people in science fiction and everything else. And even the people that we perceive as our leaders that we see are not our leaders. They're the puppets of the real actual leaders. That's all they are. You don't see the real actual leaders on TV. You don't see the real actual leaders of the planet on the news or in the newspapers. Those are all subordinates. Yeah, that guy might have $1 billion or $20 billion or whatever else, but he's still subordinate to somebody whose name you will never know. And that's the true elite. That's the real people. Those are the people who we can't get at because we can't find out what their names are. Every once in a while it happens, but again, if you're still running around screaming that David Rockefeller and Lord Rothschild run the planet, you're still chasing your fucking tail, and you always will be. And that's what they want. Yes, those guys are powerful. Yes, those guys are in the power structure. But in the grand scope of things, they're still shift managers. They aren't the CEOs and the big heads of the world multinational murder conglomerate. They aren't. And again, those are the guys whose names you'll never know. But they continue this fear-mongering stuff. A recent newspaper story about the discovery of a huge Earth-like planet 560 light years away was headlined, "New Planet Brings Hope of Life in Space." A few years ago, that sort of claim would have just been laughed off, but this has changed in recent times. Indeed, only a few days ago, a leading astronomer made quite a staggering claim. It is not hyperbolic to suggest that scientists could very well discover extraterrestrial intelligence within 2 decades of time or less. And this was no eluded alien bug hunter. no deluded alien bug hunter. This was Seth Shostak, senior astronomer at the SETI Institute of California, addressing U.S. Congress. And blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read all this. But basically he says that it goes on, their whole gist is we shouldn't even be looking for these fucking things, whatever they may be, extraterrestrials, whatever they are. We shouldn't even be fucking looking for them because it's insanely risky to do so, because more than likely they're going to be evolved beyond us and we'll end up enslaved and they're going to want to crush us and kill us and everything else. And my thing is, how do you know aren't we already enslaved? I mean, I think the fact that we haven't seen with our own two eyes an alien takeover of this planet by some force much more evolved and stronger than us, the fact that we haven't seen that, and we've just supposedly been existing here on this planet for thousands of years, and that hasn't happened, in my mind, is the greatest indicator that it already has happened a long time ago. Because if it hadn't, it would already happen. And the reason it hasn't happened is because it's already been taken over long ago. But they want to find a way to roll this out to the public and on their terms in their own way to, again, as I mentioned earlier, absolve themselves of any guilt or blame for keeping this stuff covered up for however long they've been covering it up forever. Worried about, these, hostile, it would be risky for us to look for extraterrestrials because they'll just conquer us and take us over and force us into slavery. Aren't we already conquered, taken over, and forced into slavery? I believe we are. And it's clear when you look at the evidence that the people who are really running this show at the highest levels, I'm going to say it, they aren't human. A lot of people flinch at that. A lot of people fear to even say it. Hell, I did for a very long time. I'm not afraid to say it anymore. And again, that's another level of this stuff that the majority of the quote-unquote truther, conspiracists, whatever, don't want to discuss, won't discuss for the most part. They're not comfortable with it. They just want to go on believing that Sabrina Brzezinski and David Rockefeller... Brzezinski, by the way, we understand, as I know it, is not human anyway, but a lot of these guys aren't. I think a lot of them aren't human. A lot of them are human. It's kind of like they live, they're kind of coexisting together and working towards mutual goals. And they're giving them, like, I love that part. Basically, they're having an intergalactic Council for National Policy meeting at the end of They Live. I love that scene. Yeah, boys, let me show you around down here. Yep. Sell out humans who sold out to the aliens, to be posh or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think the greatest indicator that we are ruled over by some alien force is the fact that we haven't been run over. It really is. The guys at the highest levels, I mean, no human would do to another human what these guys at the highest level order against humans all day long. They walk among us. They are among us. And they've been slowly trying to acclimate people to this reality for quite some time. But what you have to understand is even when they do reveal it, whatever they reveal to us, should you automatically believe that is the whole end-all, be-all truth? Hell fucking no. Whatever they come out and admit in the future about aliens or extraterrestrials or the Kennedy assassination or 9/11, whatever they end up admitting, because in the end, they're going to end up admitting to all this stuff. 50, 60 years from now, people are going to be listening to old broadcasts of this show or old, stuff. I'll be dead and gone, and people will be listening and going, yep, he was right. They'll eventually admit to all of it. But they'll admit to all of it so they can control the parameters of what people believe about it, just like they do every other thing. So never believe that anything that they do or an admission is in any way, shape, or form to benefit you. It's just a way for them to further control the information. It's kind of like, I love one of my favorite things you see, and people who take the testimony or the whatever, the endorsement from people who are quote-unquote ex-CIA agents, like the guy, the most recent no-plane guy, that's like the son of the guy who invented the Learjet or something, supposedly ex-CIA. He's come out real hard for the no-plane theory thing. And, even if he was 100% telling the truth and correct about his statements, I still wouldn't believe him. Not for a second. Nobody is ex-CIA. There's no such thing. The agency is something that you join and you are in until you die, and that's it. If you never trust anyone that says, has the term ex-CIA next to their names, and there are a lot of those, especially ones who come out later to be whistleblowers or, disclosure agents for aliens or extraterrestrials, those are the ones you have to be wary of. They have an ulterior agenda to, again, steer the narrative the way the establishment wants it to go, while appearing on the face of it to be revealing actual secrets. But this is just another way for them to control the information. Russia's Papagai meteor crash linked to mass extinction. From Live Science, new evidence implicates one of Earth's biggest impact craters in a mass extinction that occurred 33.7 million years ago, according to research presented here Wednesday at the annual Goldschmidt Geochemistry Conference. Researchers from the University of California, Los Angeles precisely dated rocks from beneath the Papagai impact crater in remote Siberia to the Eocene epoch mass extinction that occurred 33.7 million years ago. Papagai crater is one of the 10 biggest impact craters on Earth, and in 2012, Russian scientists claimed that the crater harbors a gigantic industrial diamond deposit. The new age, which is later than other estimates, means that the Eocene extinction, long blamed on climate change, now has another prime suspect: an impact winter. Meteorite blasts can trigger a deadly global chill by blanketing the Earth's atmosphere with tiny particles that reflect the sun's heat. I don't think this will be the smoking gun, but it reopens the door to Papagai being involved in the mass extinction. This isn't the first time flying space rocks have been implicated in the Eocene's mass die-offs. Other possible culprits besides Papagai crater include 3 smaller Earth meteorite smash-ups between 35 million and 36 million years ago: Chesapeake Bay crater offshore Virginia, Tom's Canyon crater offshore New Jersey, and Mytasin crater in Labrador, Canada. Previously, all 4 craters were ruled out because of their ages. Earlier dating attempts had pinned Papagai's impact at around 35.7 million years ago. And 2 million years is too much of a time lag between a meteorite blast and disappearing species. Well, from what they believe to be true, anyway it is. And again, we've talked about this, there's a real, honest to goodness reason why the argument between these mass extinctions always has to do with whether or not it was a quote-unquote climate change event or a meteorite event, and again, or an asteroid impact event. And again, this idea that it has to be one or the other, and completely excluding the idea that, it's all one and the same. That mass die-offs, mass extinctions, and all this stuff, and this whole climate change was caused from these impact meteorites. And again, no explanation to the general public as to why throughout our history on this planet, you can tell by the impact craters that are here, that there have been cyclical events, cyclical things of cyclical impacts. They don't happen all the time. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any life here for an extended period of time. But they happen over different cycles because of cycles with our sun and our Earth. Pole shifts, magnetic pole flips. The sun's been going through one for quite some time now. It takes years and years for it to go all the way through the process. But during that process, when you have the magnetic field, gravitational field, it just starts pulling in rocks from outer space and then ejecting them back out like the opposite end of a magnet, repelling each other back towards Earth. And the ancients knew about this. They had records of it and tried to warn us that these things happened and would happen, so we'd be ready when they happen again. And because the powers that be see us as children who couldn't handle this truth and wouldn't perform our menial daily tasks to keep their society system going in along without a snag, they lie about this stuff to us. And now, why do you think it's a coincidence that all we've heard for the past couple of decades is climate change, global warming, this, that, and the other? And this just happens to coincide with mass amounts of fireballs coming down to Earth more times than they ever have? No, and they full well know it. And again, this is another one of the things they want to keep covered up with all of these ancient sites and ancient history and the rest of it. Anyways, I mentioned earlier before, up there on my website, theglobalreality.com, we have the Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 3, Indiegogo campaign banner up there. Please go there and make a contribution to that so we can finish this project. There's all kinds of good prize pack deals up there. And, we need the full tilt boogie. You can also get yourself a membership to our radio archives there at theglobalreality.com. It says Radio Archive. Subscribe right-hand side of the page. There's a stone mineral link up there that'll link you to our Facebook page now if you want to order some crystals, rocks, minerals, gems, whatever to support our work. Donate button is there as well. We've really been scraping by here for a long time to the network, and we got enough this month to barely scrape by and get our operating costs paid. But we're frankly not going to survive another month of very little support. I mean, I'm glad we got in what we needed to cover the bills for this month, but we really haven't got any much other than that. So please, whatever you can spare to support our work right now, folks, this month, it's very vital. Really, more than anything else, we just need to reach that goal for the film project. So, any real available resources you can give to us right now would be great to go towards the film thing the most. But please, again, support our work any way you can. Get yourself some films. The downloads of Lost Secrets 1 and Lost Secrets 2 are only $15 now. So you can get, 6 hours of the downloads for $30. There used to be 20 and 25, and they're 15 now. And just however you can do it. We don't have a lot of time left, folks, and with this Minerva Research Initiative, isn't that a fitting name? Because, for years, Alex Jones misappropriately told people that the owl at the Bohemian Grove was actually Moloch. Moloch has never been depicted as an owl. Moloch's always been depicted as a bull. That's Minerva, but again, as I talk about in The Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 2, if he would have told you that was Minerva, it would have brought all these other questions up. He'd just rather you not ask, which is, why didn't you talk about, if you talked about the big owl, why not talk about the big statue they have in the Bohemian Grove, which is really who they really worship. The owl's just part of the cremation of care ritual thing that they do, which they draw power from to carry out their plans that they do, in their work, world leaders, the rest of it. But they have St. John of Nepomuk, a Jesuit saint, a Jesuit martyr, a guy who was murdered, killed for the cause of the Jesuits. That's their patron saint at the Bohemian Grove. Jones doesn't want to talk about that because then that starts to bring up all the questions about his connection to the Jesuit order and 7 Ways to Sunday, specifically his connections with the John Birch Society and every head of the John Birch Society being Jesuit trained, the rest of that. I mean, it's just, I think there was like one that wasn't. So, this Minerva project or Minerva initiative thing, that's clearly being targeted towards people that are deemed wanting a civil unrest, quote, conspiracy theorists, militia types, teabaggers, freemen, whatever they are. And right in their face, they're calling it the Minerva Project, the Minerva Research Initiative. Minerva being, as you know, the same as Columbia and all the rest of those. It's one of their major calling cards. Unbelievable stuff. Very interesting article here from the Epoch Times. Out of place in time, a 500,000-year-old spark plug. In 1961, 3 people were out searching for geodes for their gym and gift shop in Olancha, California. One of them picked up a geode common to the area, but it somehow seemed different. Explained to Leonard Nimoy in an episode of his TV show In Search of... Oh, this is from an old In Search of episode. I've seen this. Why are they rolling this out like this is breaking news? I apologize for that. I've seen this. Very interesting they'd be bringing this up now, though, isn't it? Why all of a sudden are they interested in talking about these out-of-place artifacts? Again, folks, when you start to see this is why they brought the rock wall out on History Channel, all of this stuff. It's the whole reason why you'll see, just like as I went from, the City Right Volume 1. When I did City Right Volume 1, we scoured hours and hours, went all through the news archives, did all kinds of search to find any mention of the Council for National Policy. There wasn't. Right after I mentioned there was no mention of it anywhere, before I could even get Volume 2 out, boom, they start mentioning it everywhere. I knew at the time that was not a coincidence. Even Keith Olbermann talked about it and said the Council for National Policy on TV right after Volume 1 of The Secret Right came out in 2009. They've been doing this for years to me, folks, and I'm not making it up. I'm not imagining it. It's not in my head. They really are doing this. They follow what I talk about. Then they prepackage their own things around it to combat it, to try and nullify any implied conspiracy or any implied cover-up that I may not talk about. In a futile, I might mention, attempt to negate my work. That's what it is. So it's interesting to me that, again, from the rock wall to whatever it may be, they want to have their own stuff so they can control the conversation. So that you don't gain a context for these things that they don't want you to have. Very interesting they regurgitate that old story. Yeah, I knew about that. I don't know why they'd roll that out as new. Let's see. I think we might gonna leave it there for tonight. Something else I wanted to mention. I can't remember what it was. What was it? Felt like there was a topic or there was something I wanted to mention. I can't remember what it was. I'll have to think about it and remember it for tomorrow night's show. TheGlobalReality.com is our website. Also, check us out on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook at The Global Reality Radio Network. The Global Reality Radio Network. Just type that in to Facebook, The Global Reality Radio Network, and you can add us over there. And also check out Let There Be Rocks. Facebook.com/Let There Be Rocks. If you want some crystals, gems, that kind of stuff, I can hook you up. I get great prices, and it'll support what we do here. So definitely do that. And again, as I said, go there to theglobalreality.com. Go check out our Indiegogo campaign. We've got lots of pictures and different videos in the campaign thing. Lots of great packages. We really need some people to come in with those larger amounts. If we could get one person to come in with one of those $1,000 levels this week, that'd be great. Go there, get yourself set up with a package, support this work so that we can continue, because time's running out and we've got to get this stuff covered and out there and on the record out to the world before they commence with all this crazy divide and conquer, civil war, worldwide, dissolution of government and lockdown of the citizens where none of us are ever going to have a chance to do it ever again. This is it. This is our last shot. We take it now or we don't get it again. What are we going to do? Let's do it. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night for the broadcast. You guys have yourselves a great one, and we'll see you then. Take care.